Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hopefully that worked for everybody else.
All right, that looks better.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. I don't know what the deal is today. Sorry.
I had to go back to the instructions he gave us at the very beginning because I couldn't remember how to do it either.
Yeah, that's what I had to do last week too. So Joseph's tried to get in a couple times, it looks like, and he hasn't been able to find us either.
Oh, okay. Well, I added him to this one too.
Excuse me. Hopefully he'll get in.
All right, so we're already going live, so we can just continue where we left off.
Okay, we were talking about how to explain integration.
Okay.
This one honestly reminded me of like word council meeting. Everybody comes from different organizations and stuff, you know, but everybody has a say in what's going on. And what's your opinion on this? What's your view from this perspective over here?
Yep, very much so.
Yeah, I agree. I like basically the definition of it is we are all on the same team with our differences, not despite them. So we bring our strengths, we bring our weaknesses, and try to make it work.
I think integration is a combination of assimilation and differentiation because you're bringing together the differences and trying to create a team that's has one goal, and that is working together for the same thing, and trying to be the same even though there are many different parts coming together.
Yep.
I agree with that. So have you guys thought about examples from these three paradigms? Like work or with your kids or things like that? We kind of talked a little bit about it with how you discipline your kids in different ways or motivate them in different ways because they all have different personalities. Does anybody have any other examples?
Mm-hmm.
I guess for integration, I would say basically marriage. We come from completely different backgrounds and different. Well, and so in my family, so my husband came from a very inactive family, and I came from a very active family, and so in the church, and so integrating both of those and deciding what we wanted for our kids and what we wanted for our family. There is differences, and despite those, we have to make them work. So I think that's a pretty good example of integration.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, and it made me think of my pediatrician's office. A man in my ward moved here and joined that pediatrician's office, and it's been just two women in the office for a long time, and they're expanding, but he has a computer knowledge, and that's where medical's going, so he's integrating that in, and it are not liking it at all, but he's able to be there and help with that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about serving a mission, because your missionaries can go anywhere, and there can be people from all over the world that you're trying to work with, like missionaries and members of the church, and so it can be hard to combine those cultures, but it seems to always work out, most of the time anyways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hopefully we can get Joseph in here now.
Are we all getting
A different thing from Elijah.
Yes.
How do we add him?
Well, we can't accept the call from him. He'll have to add on to ours.
I just invited him again. Hopefully he'll.
Yeah.
Okay.
So were you guys able to see the TED Talk by Melody Hobson, where she talked about color blindness is dangerous? Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I thought that was a great talk. I agree. I think that a lot of times we're so worried about, offending somebody of a different race that we just don't even acknowledge that they're a different race, and we just, but I think that you can acknowledge their culture and their background and learn so much from them. There's a lot of refugees here in our area that are coming and have come, and just to talk with them and realize, and kind of allow them to bring out their background and their culture and share it with you just is a real eye-opener. And I really think that they have a lot to bring to society. They're just, sometimes we think just because they don't speak English that they're ignorant or whatever, and that's just not the case. It's just that they don't speak English, and I just think that we have a lot to learn from other people, no matter what their culture is or their race.
Yeah, for sure. I think people can be scared a lot of the time to even bring up that somebody is a different race or color, because they don't want to feel like they're being racist, and maybe they don't know how to bring it up without feeling racist. But if you don't do that, it's hard to show that you're interested in what they grew up doing or what their culture is.
I like how she explained it with the swimming thing and how we need to be more comfortable being uncomfortable. Because there's a lot of topics, aside from race, that are really uncomfortable to talk about. But we're just going to walk around with our heads in the sand, pretending, that everything's fine. We're going to be pretty unproductive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, like the reading pointed out, as we allow the different people to express their individuality and bring to the table their backgrounds, that it helps grow the company, and it helps grow clientele, and just opens up a lot of different things that maybe we wouldn't have even thought of or explored in a company.
Okay. So the next part is color bravery. And what does Hobson mean about being color brave? And what do you think it should look like in the workplace?
I like where she said that we should look at people around us purposefully and intentionally. Like, there's so many things we just go through the motions every day. We just, we go through the motions of making dinner or, whatever, but we're not necessarily like purposely thinking about it. I've had to think about that a lot with my kids. Why am I doing this particular thing, or why do I want it this way? And make sure that what I'm doing is what I really want, right? Kind of that intentional parenting. I think in the workplace, we need to be very purpose and intentional about a conversation about race. Why? What's the purpose? What's the intention? And what do you hope to get out of that? And, pay attention to the fact that they do have ideas, and they do have, their culture might bring something better to the table.
I like that. I think there are a lot of times when kind of like you're making dinner, or I don't know, sometimes you zone out when you're driving too, even. It's just such a habit. You don't think about it anymore. And that can be really dangerous in the workplace. You have this mindset, this idea in your head of how things should be, or, that kind of thing. And so you get closed off to certain ideas. It's harder to learn from others, or to want to be open to their perspective, I think, and you lose a lot from that.
Yeah, you get complacent, don't you?
Very.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but like I have a good friend that we've been friends for several years now, and she actually grew up in this area, and I'm in Boise, Idaho, so there's a lot of LDS people here, and she grew up here and she'd never met an LDS person. And when she first met me, she just thought I was crazy. I mean, she didn't want to let me in. And now, I mean, we've been friends for about 15 years now, and you know, she's like, I'm so glad that I opened my mind and let you in, because she's learned so much from us, or from me and my family, that she wouldn't have had that experience otherwise. So
Yeah, that's a really good point. The authors of Making Differences Matter explain that some managers are more comfortable addressing problems with outright discrimination than more subtle diversity problems. Have you ever been in a team, group, or organization where one person's ideas... Oh, darn it, poor Joseph. I don't know how to get him on.
Where is that call version coming from?
it's coming from Google Hangouts. I'm wondering if in the chat box, I can't copy the link above, but Lisa, maybe you can copy the link above and put it in that chat box on Google Hangouts.
Okay.
And see if you can join it that way.
Because I've tried re-inviting him, but
Yeah, the link might work.
Yeah, I
So,
tried copying it, but I don't have the copy option.
Okay, yeah, maybe he can try that. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
yay!
It's just the
Hi,
day for
Joseph.
technical difficulties.
oh, man, I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, I sent you guys all invites. I don't know why you guys couldn't join mine.
So weird.
It looks like he's muted, but he's here.
Okay, so have you guys ever been on a team, group, or organization where one person's ideas or approach to doing work was hard for the rest of the group to understand because of a difference in background, experience, gender, race, or something else?
I don't think I ever have.
Kind of going back to the mission thing, I served a mission in Italy, and I had a couple companions who were from other countries. And so sometimes there's a little bit of a language barrier. One of my companions was a Spanish speaker, and she didn't know English, and she was still learning Italian. And so it was hard sometimes to get ideas across, but it was also really hard. She was really homesick, and she's from Argentina, and some of the things that she was homesick for, I totally did not get, did not understand, being an American, you know?
Yeah.
And so I tried to take it seriously, but at times it was really hard for me to do it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Well, I think also like in marriage, my husband had a different, we just had different ideas on some things and raising our kids. And so we had to bring that together. He grew up in a small town. I grew up in a big town in Texas, and we just came from different cultures, it seemed like.
Well, we had my 19-year-old, my husband's 19-year-old nephew was living with us. He came in May, and he just left last weekend. And really, the bottom line is he left because our rules were so different than what he's had at home. he said it's because he wanted to go get a better relationship with his dad, but he came to us because he wants to go on a mission, and so he felt like living in our environment would be better. But ultimately, it's like we just kept having conflicts after conflict, and it was essentially the rules, bringing together rules and bringing together different ways of life. And there was little things like his he was eating like a roll of Pillsbury cookie dough one day, like just slicing off the cookie dough and eating it. And he's like, "Hey guys, you want some?" And I was like, no, guys, no, that has raw eggs in it." And he was like, "I've never gotten sick. I must have an immunity." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not saying you can't eat it. I'm just saying my kids aren't eating it because I have to clean up that mess." And but it was like, he was like, "But I've done it my whole life." And I was like, "That's fine, you can have it, but they're not going to have it. And one of them's allergic to wheat, so she's definitely not having it." And so just kind of bringing together just whole different ways of being raised was hard. And so yeah, on a team, you know, you think about bringing in different cultures or different, there's more than just lifestyles. There's so many different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, what could have been done in that situation to gain from the diversity of the group? So, kind of going back to my companion, I really tried to get over the little individual things that I thought were weird and just focused on she's homesick. You know, I can understand homesick. I might not understand these other things, but I need to kind of overcome that little difference.
Trying to see it from their point of view, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just communication and, you know, listening and being listened to is huge in the group setting like that. And, you know, you can just everybody realizing that everybody has their own strengths that they're bringing and ideas that they're bringing that need to be considered, whether you go with them in the end or not. You know, it could turn out to be a great thing moving forward.
Okay. Does anybody else have an idea of how you could gain from that situation?
I think maybe trying to find out more about the individual, and you know, just who they are can definitely help you to understand them better and understand their ideas better, and help them to understand where you're coming from as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like in the case of marriage, you know, being open to that your idea might not necessarily be the right idea. So integrating the ideas together and learning from each other, that combined idea.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, many companies still do have problems with outright discrimination. Have you ever worked for or observed a company where there are outright discrimination problems, and what was that experience like?
I remember I used to work for my dad as a receptionist, and there was 3 men who owned the company, and one of them, who was mostly in charge of the office, he would have his daughter come work as a receptionist every once in a while. But when she came, he would pay her about $1 an hour less than we were getting paid. And he just said, "Oh, she doesn't need to make that much money since she's my daughter." And so I always thought that was so unfair, because she was doing the exact same job we were doing, but yet he was paying her less just because he was her daughter or his daughter.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
Well, that doesn't do much for father-daughter relationships.
No.
Well, my first job as a teenager, I worked at a pizza buffet, and all the cooks and all of the people, I guess, in the kitchen basically spoke Spanish. And I mean, this was in Texas, so it's a heavily, you know, a lot of Spanish people, but I didn't know Spanish. And I was basically let go after a week because I couldn't communicate with the cooks and everybody in the kitchen. And I thought, well, I live in America, we should speak English, but but we were running out of stuff like that because I couldn't tell them that we needed silverware fast. So I felt discriminated because, yeah.
One of my high school jobs, I worked on an Army post. My dad was in the military, and they kept, for my job, they kept telling me, okay, you're a cute girl. The young Army soldiers are probably going to hit on you, so you need to learn a lot about sexual harassment. And I thought, you know, that's great that I'm learning about it, but what about them? You know? And it wasn't a big deal for them not to know about it, but I needed to know all about it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then what did John Skipper, ESPN president, mean when he answered yes to the question, do we hire the minority or the person who is most qualified? And do you believe that this is the right approach to hiring for diversity?
Well, clearly he meant that, you know, you need, regardless of what, you're hiring for best qualifications, right? And hopefully you're getting some diversity while you're doing that. I think that it's like in the cases we read this week where they hired the Hispanic lawyer and then she brought in cases and then that diversified their employees, but also diversified their clientele. Like, I think it's just kind of that be brave and take the first step and do something a little bit different and then see what flows from that. Not try to build numbers, right? Not the affirmative action where we're just counting numbers. More where we bringing in somebody that has the skills and then seeing where it goes from there.
And I think the hiring process takes in so much, or should take in so much. It shouldn't just be whether you're whoever's the most qualified. It shouldn't just be what your race is. It should be, you know, there's so many things. Do they work well in the work environment and the culture that you have there at work? And, you know, what kind of maybe clientele they're bringing with them? Or, I mean, there's just so much depending on the position that you consider when hiring people that, you know, I think just, you know, like Cindy said, you can't just say we're going to hire you because you're a minority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit. Do you guys remember, I think it was 10 or more years ago, there was the big scandal about how a couple universities were accepting students because they were minorities. You know, that was it right there. And so kids who were not, but had, you know, the straight A's, extracurricular activities and stuff, they were not able to go to those schools because these other kids were going instead because they were a minority. I remember that being a really big deal.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal at BYU Provo right now. The kid that lives behind us, he was telling his sister, hey, can I get the presidential scholarship at BYU? And she looked right at him. She's like, nope, you're a Mormon boy from Utah and you are white. You're not getting it. And he was so upset. And she was trying to make it kind of like that he wasn't a minority, and that's what she was trying to turn it into. And I was like, hey, Trevor, I really think the issue is that you're a Mormon boy from Utah, and you can go to the University of Utah and go to Institute and meet other Mormon people. And you could go to Utah State and meet other Mormon people. But people that are coming to BYU are coming to BYU because they don't have a dating pool in their area that's LDS. And I said, more of what BYU is looking at is getting you married, not necessarily that you're a minority. But he was like so upset. And I was like, I think it's more about your potential for an eternal companion than it is about your race. But his sister was trying to turn it into race. And I was like, you have Institute options. Other people don't. And so he was so upset. But there is that perception down at BYU, Provo especially, just because the kids, like this kid has a 4.0, but his chance of getting the presidential scholarship are going to be pretty slim, honestly. But if you're from out of state or from out of country, it's a lot better. But he was so upset. He was like, "It's about race." I'm like, "No, it's about where you live." He's like, "Can I use my grandpa's address in California?" I'm like, "Might help."
That's funny. Okay, Elder Ballard describes a church council. Does the ward council he described follow the integration paradigm?
Definitely.
Hi, good to meet
Hi.
everybody.
Hi,
Yeah.
So,
I think the description of the ward council. Currently, I serve as an elders quorum president in my ward, and oftentimes when we go for ward council, we try to balance things out as has been discussed to get everybody along to hear the inputs, the Relief Society president, primary president, and the others. And then we try to see how to be sure we're not leaving anybody behind. But sometimes it's hard to follow it that way. Sometimes the time is short, you have lots of things to do, and you feel getting everybody's opinion, ideas on that particular thing will be time consuming, so you just kind of cut it short and you move on to the next agenda and all that. And others don't feel happy, but there are times when there's plenty of time, you just want to go through and all that. But the ideal thing is what Elder Bala described.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the counseling with our council's approach is definitely like the model of integration. I mean, he said in there, we counsel openly with each other. We listen to each other with profound respect for abilities and experiences. And so when you looked at some of those the assimilation and the differentiation, it didn't matter what abilities were. It didn't matter what their other experiences were. It didn't matter what these other people were bringing to the table. It just mattered what the upper management wanted. And in the counseling, it does matter. And, I mean, I haven't been in a ward council since the new way of doing things for many years. But, I've never felt like my opinion didn't matter as somebody from the Relief Society or somebody from the primary. And, they take into account everyone's opinion, when they're talking about, I don't know, a ward camp out or something, it still matters, how the primary president feels about it, not just the elders quorum and the Relief Society. It'd be a really good approach to put into business, but I don't really know how to do that.
Well, I think kind of in regards to the doohickeys problem, how CEO made all the management, he hired all the managers and he didn't want to have any input from any of the lower management at all. He was just going to make his own decision. And I think that if he took that council, those procedures and applied them, he would realize that there might be a lot of people within the company that would make excellent managers if he would just listen to the people who are managing them and find out what great employees they are and what they had to offer.
Yeah, or even pay attention to the problems. I mean, the CEO had no idea about the injuries. That was just the new HR guy taking a walk,
Yeah.
So listening about each other's problems and getting an idea of what you even need to be managing.
Right.
Well, and I one thing about ward councils is they're very diverse. It isn't just a certain group of people in the ward that are putting these callings. It's very diverse. And with the doohickeys, you had to know somebody or you were a family member of somebody to be management. So they didn't, welcome the diversity of different ideas and stuff like that. It was, you had to know someone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I was thinking with that CEO or leader of the company, he's probably never, seen the effects of having a group work together or having these managers be able to cooperate and give input that will help And so he just thinks, oh, it's better if I just do it on my own because my ideas are the best. You know, it might be self-centered. But, you know, if he would just open himself up a little bit and give somebody else the opportunity to have some input, then I think there could be big changes and big improvements in a company that would do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was thinking too, like if you look at the presidency and the first presidency and the apostles, I mean, they are all really good in the fields that they're in, you know?
Yeah.
But they still listen to each other. It's not, oh, I have all the experience. It's, well, let me hear what your opinion is too. And you know that they've got to have some really strong opinions about things, but they're still able to work it out and be unanimous in their decisions because of it.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with they're humble enough to be willing to listen.
Yeah, because I mean, you could get some pretty big egos just in the first presidency and Quorum of the 12, right? You've got a couple heart surgeons, you've got a lawyer, you've got, and they're able to set that aside and have some humility. And I don't know how to translate that necessarily into the business world. Obviously, they knew how to take it from the business world into the church, but how do you take it from the church into the business world?
I think looking at other people in the first presidency or Quorum of the 12's professions, you see that individuality. But with these men, they've been raised in the church. They've joined in these groups of leadership in the church, and they understand how to work as a group. And so it's been a lifetime of learning and working with a group of people in wards and branches and stakes. And so they're able to grow up doing that, whereas other people that may be in that profession, they didn't grow up doing that, or they didn't learn that as they went on with their profession. And so it's hard for them to be able to look at other people's ideas and accept those ideas because they're, you know, the top of their profession and what they do.
True.
Let me share with you an experience. Some time ago, I was approached by a friend. We're talking about some business things, and he wanted an idea how he can best run his startup. And so I said, okay, your startup has to do with marketing, and if you want to get in marketing, I told him I really don't like this. What they call refer one person to the other kind of marketing system. But if you really want to go into marketing, I think the best approach would be to use the missionary setting. And he said, what's the missionary setting? I said, let me explain. You're not a member of my church, so let me give you the idea very well. So in my church, the missionaries go in two. There is a companionship, and 2 or 3 companionships are put together to make a district, and 2 or 3 districts are put together to make a zone, and then you have the mission. Then all of them have leaders. You have district leaders, you have zone leaders, and then you have the assistants, and then the mission president. So if you can structure it this way, you can best tell who you need to call for accountability at a certain time. And then everybody will be fully in charge of his or her district and areas. And then you allow the companionship to say, okay, you two are working together. This is your area. So whoever you contact within this area, be sure you relate to each other, give each other information before you pass on to your district leaders and on. And he felt that was too long a process, but he said he would give it a try. He did, and it was very successful. He came back and said, that was an excellent idea. Any more ideas from your church? I said, I think you have to start paying me now.
10%, right, Elijah?
So it's something when you apply these principles in the business world, it really helps. Clay Christensen, Harvard business professor, he at some point I think I spoke about it, and he tried to give his business advice or consultancy on some church principles, and it has been working.
That's great.
Awesome.
This made me think of an experience my daughter just went through. She's the Laurel president, and when they were having their presidency meeting, they the girls were just unhappy because the boys weren't putting any effort into their combined activities, and they were doing the same thing every time any of the boy organizations was in charge of it. And so the girls just wanted to say, can't we just take that responsibility from them and plan them ourselves? And their leader was like, no, we can't do that. And so what they did instead is they came up with ideas and presented those to the boys and said, the girls don't want to come to these combined activities because you're doing the same thing every time. They were always doing relay races. And the girls, we have very girly girls, and they did not want to do relay races. And so I thought that was the leader handled that in the right way. Yes, we understand you're unhappy. We want the girls to come to these activities. So instead, why don't you offer ideas to the boys instead of
I like that.
Awesome.
So, is there a value to promoting a diverse workforce?
I think so, indeed. I think it offers room for creativity, different ideas. Heavenly Father didn't create us all the same. He created us all different so that we could all, I guess, work together for the greater good. Because if we're all the same, that would be boring.
Well, and I agree. I think that we definitely, diversity is good, because personally, I don't want to experience everything you guys have experienced to learn from it. So I would rather learn from your experiences, from hearing about them, and what you do because of your experiences. And so diversity brings all those experiences in. I mean, I don't live in Africa with Elijah, so his perspective of bringing things about from where the church is for him is different than my perspective of, I live in the middle of Utah. I live in West Jordan. I live right outside of Salt Lake County. I mean, I'm in the heart of the church. And so my perspective of even diversity and, being a Mormon is so different from Elijah's. And so in business, that diversity, I don't have the experience. So I need to hear it from other people. And I think that's how business is.
Diversity brings fresh spirit in whatever you're doing, because you understand this person is coming from this area. And I have met with a couple of BYU graduate students. They say part of what they look out for is strengthening the diversity that exists there. And so when they encourage people to apply, they want people to apply from all over the world, because their success together as students are dependent on the various ideas these students are coming with, or the various experiences in the different economics and nations they're coming from. So they look forward to that. And for that, their policy is such that they consider certain people from certain areas just to have them in the team, and they put them together in group. They send them out for field work, they go do their research, they come back, and they always come with excellent results.
Okay, the last question is, what approach would you take to diversity as a manager?
Well, I think about, I don't know, I guess since I've been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years, I always think about being a mom. And right now I have a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old. I have all girls, so you think that, kind of be the same, but it's not. And I have to approach my 14-year-old a lot differently than my 17-year-old. And my 14-year-old pointed out to me, she's like, I'm not the same person as her older sister. And so you just have to listen to them and see what works. And, don't take complaints or unhappiness as disrespect or them thinking you're not doing a good job, but take it as constructive criticism, exactly what it is, and try to apply it in the way that you are working with your.
Mhm. I think kind of going back to what you were talking about before, Wendy, with the young women, the leader recognized that there was a problem and she found a solution that worked. It helped the girls feel like they were being more active and part of planning the activities, and it didn't offend the boys because they said, okay, here are some ideas, you choose, so they still had a say in it as well. So I think a lot of it has to do with, you have to respect the people, you have to respect the employees, and you have to have an open mind to new ideas and different opinions, and you have to really be willing to communicate.
Yeah. We have to lead by example. We have to
Mhm.
be willing to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think example's key as the manager. When it does come to diversity, you have to be able to embrace that diversity and not just be single-minded and not accept what other people are saying or different ideas outside your own.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Wendy's example with the young women. The leader came up with like a solution, but she had the girls take ownership for it.
Yeah.
And so I think as a manager in a business, if you are pushing for diversity, that's awesome, but you've got to, like you said, lead by example, and you've got to take ownership and then allow the other people to take ownership to start accepting those ideas. Like the case with the lady that was the lawyer they brought in, and then she brought in new cases. The owner had to kind of sit back and explain to everyone else that she was bringing in cases and diversity, and that was fine. Like there's that whole paradigm shift, but there has to be that ownership that you took for it too, not just we have to be diverse. You can't just pass it off as something. You have to, like that young woman leader, she helped them take ownership.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Group, I need to apologize because I need to go.
Well, that was the last question. We should be done.
That we're close. I just the difficulties made it run a little long. I'm sorry I need to go though.
That's all right.
No, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope you guys have a good week.
Yeah.
You too.
You
Thank you,
too.
Alex.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that was the last question, so that should be good. And then we just need to get on that Google document and add to it, right, Lisa?
Yeah, there's a couple people been on there this morning. That's when I was on there. I actually totally forgot about it till this morning. But yeah, I think it's a great way for us to find out what the problems and solutions are and get that going.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it helps now. I know that we kind of know what we're supposed to do. We're only working with that one case, and each week we need to discuss, I guess, what that topic is with that one case. So
Yeah, we need to pull out. So we need to pull out two main problems at this point, because we've basically had, two or maybe three, because we've had leadership and we had leadership and then the teams and performance appraisals, and then now the equal opportunity laws. And then we'll have equal opportunity and harassment next week too. So we need to pull our three problems from that, and then our solutions from what we've been learning.
Perfect.
okay.
Because I think the case is going to stay the same, and then we're going to pull three more problems from the next 3 weeks of stuff starting after week 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a slew of problems, so I don't think we're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. Yikes.
All right, and I'll post this link on the Google Plus.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, no problem.
And then Sarah, you're okay to do your discussion leader write-up?
Yeah, I can do the write-up.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was this morning with trying to get everybody together.
Yeah, like
Well, I wasn't helpful trying to step in and help, so.
You were good.
yeah, and the
My
write-up
husband
is pretty
got on a
unrelated.
group call at the same time, so I'm wondering if that caused the problem.
Ah,
Because he works from home, so he does video calls a lot.
Oh,
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So.
okay. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, and I'm the leader next week, so I will have it all
Okay.
figured out and the invite sent out early. So,
Okay.
okay.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yep,
Bye.
thanks. See ya.
Have a great
Yeah.
week.
You too.
You too.